Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Modded Minecraft. I am Razakius, and we are building a floor. I don't think I've ever done this on camera with you guys, so I guess we're doing it today. I've talked about how I've decided to leave a space between the first floor and the second floor instead of filling it in completely. And the reason I decided that was a time-saving exercise more than anything. I actually would prefer to fill it in, but it would take a lot of time to do that, so I am not going to. So this is basically what I've been doing of late. Actually, I'll be honest with you guys. I've been taking a step back from Minecraft a little bit of late, and the reason for that is... well, I don't really know the reason for that. I still enjoy playing. However, I have been playing Minecraft pretty non-stop for the last 6 months. When I was working, I was coming home from work and playing Minecraft, and I was playing Minecraft all week, and the only time that I never really played Minecraft was when I was recording one of my other series, or when I was rendering an episode, or working and sleeping, obviously. Now, after my first week of not work, actually after my first week or 2 weeks of non-work, in my first week, I decided to go all out, and I switched over to the 2 episodes a day. Something that I've also kind of pulled back from of late. I'm not sure if I'm going to go back to the 2 episodes a day. The reason for that is that my mind is on other things right now, trying to find a job, and it might have been a mistake for me to try to do that during this time. One thing I did find out by trying to do 2 episodes a day is I could very easily do 3 episodes a day if this was my job. If not 4 episodes a day. So two episodes time-wise is not difficult for me to complete without a full-time job. But because I am trying to find a job, my mind just wasn't in it. But anyway, back to Minecraft in particular. Again, for the first week, and maybe even into the second week of not having a full-time job and doing YouTube more, I was playing Minecraft a lot more than I probably should have. This series and the Skyblock series, which Skyblock I enjoy because it's a little bit different than this series, but with those 2 series, I've taken to playing Minecraft a lot more than I had previously. So now instead of just like a few hours a day, it turned into 6 or 7, if not more, working on it. And I think I just kind of burned myself out a little bit. And then Diablo 3 came along, and I started getting myself involved in that game. So this last week, I've been taking a little bit of a break from Minecraft. I'm still working on everything almost daily. I'm trying to make sure that I put at least an hour into this game a day, but I have been taking a step back. And because of that, you'll notice that my episodes have dropped down to just Friday instead of 3 times a week that I originally was thinking that I was going to do. Time is certainly not an issue right now. It's more just where I'm at with Minecraft. I just need a little bit of space. But I love the game still, and I'm still gonna keep on with this building. If I get sick of Minecraft, I have the intent of finishing this project and then stopping playing at that point. So I'm going to be playing a long time just to finish this project, because I am very intent on it. I started it, I'm going to finish it, damn it. Yeah, so here we are. Now, I did have a topic for today. Today's topic is television. What I'm going to talk about, I've talked about a couple of times in the past with some of my friends over the last couple of years, and I was recently actually watching Hercules while I was playing this game. Not a great show, but a show of the 90s. I never did understand why people liked that show, so I'm rewatching it just for the hell of it, because I never really fully watched the show before. But it got me thinking again and talking again with another friend about television now versus television even 15 years ago. So let's say 15 years ago. And my original discussion with my original friend was that television now is pretty crappy compared to television 15 years ago. And my original friend sort of disagreed with me. My second friend that I've talked about this with agreed with me that television now isn't as good as it used to be. And we're kind of wondering if we're starting to wade into old man syndrome of, well, when I was a kid, everything was better. I don't know if that's true. Like, I grew up on television, right? So, like, I would take sick days because I was bored of school, I'll be honest, when I was a kid. And I would stay home, and I would watch television all day long while I was home. And the television that was on in the daytime back then was soap operas, which are almost extinct at this point. Talk shows, which there are way too many of this at this point. And syndication. In particular, really old television programs. So I grew up having a very strong interest in I Love Lucy, Andy Griffith's show I watched a lot, Leave It to Beaver, Beverly Hillbillies, Gilligan's Island. I even watched a lot of Petticoat Junction. I remember that show very fondly. And so I have like this history in me of watching really old programs from the 50s and 60s. 70s didn't really produce a lot. There's been some stuff in the 70s, and I'll be honest, most of the stuff from the 70s I've started picking up as an adult, like MASH. I just started watching late last year. I still don't really care for that show, but I understand why. It's a high-quality show. It's just not my cup of tea. My big complaint about that show is that it's a drama, and everybody keeps calling it a comedy, and I don't really find it that funny. But it is good. Anyway, back to the topic. Today, television, in my opinion, is pretty craptastic. Like, I look at some of the more popular things today, and I just don't see it. Two Broke Girls, I know, is doing really well for CBS right now. And that show is not a good show. It's just not. And I tried to like it. I liked it better than a lot of CBS's other newer shows that were around when it first came out. But I couldn't stand it. To me, that show is victim of the writers just writing. It seems to me like they're trying to make it so that every single line is a joke in hopes that 1 out of 20 of their jokes is actually funny. And to me, it actually annoys me that they're putting out so many jokes. And by the time you get to the one funny one, I'm just annoyed by that point. So that to me, Two Broke Girls is more annoying than anything else. Big Bang Theory, and me and my friend both of my friends have discussed this, that Big Bang Theory is squarely not targeted at me, and so it's kind of unfair for me to even judge that show because that show's not geared at geeks at all. I have a passing okayness with the show, and I will watch it, and every now and then it's funny, but the little things really bother me in that show more than it probably would in almost any other show, because they're supposed to be geeks, and because I am a geek, I criticize those geeky parts a little more than maybe I probably should. So for that, I would say it's not entirely their fault. It's me. But I do equate Big Bang Theory to, if we wanted to go back 20 years ago, I equate it to Friends. And looking at Friends versus Big Bang Theory, I would say that Friends was a better show. And the two have really similar qualities, too, if you look at it. Both of them involve 3 male friends and 3 female friends, although Big Bang Theory went out and made a 4th male friend. Both have an on-again, off-again main relationship. Friends has Ross and Rachel, and Big Bang Theory has Penny and Leonard. Both are kind of a subject of the times. Nowadays, geeks are kind of hip and cool. In the 90s, coffee houses were hip and cool, and they're still kind of hip and cool, but they're not as hip and cool as they were in the 90s. So they're still a product of the time. Anyway, like I very much equate those two shows. And if you think about those two shows, in my opinion, Friends is just a better show all the way around. Better acting, better writing, better jokes. Everything's just better about Friends. And I think that's a good qualifier. Now, my original friend who disagreed with me that shows are not worse now actually thought there were more good shows now than there were 20 years ago. Points to non-network television as his case in point. There's more shows, there's more channels now. AMC has Walking Dead, and during our original conversation had Breaking Bad and Mad Men, which recently ended. And HBO has Game of Thrones and whatnot. And okay, that's reasonable. Although, I will say 20 years ago, HBO had Oz. And then if we go 15 years ago, HBO exploded and had a wonderful amount of good programming that is still way better than today. So then we can go and say, well, 15 years ago, that argument doesn't work anymore. Which is weird, right? Like, it's a 5-year difference versus a 15-year or 20-year difference. That shows just were good. Because 15 years ago, HBO had Sex and the City, Sopranos, Oz was still on, I think. You had shows like The Wire, you had Deadwood. HBO had so many good shows, and even Showtime had really great programming before more than now. And what my second friend pointed out, well, maybe the problem is that all the good shows ended, and there haven't been enough time for new shows to pick up. But that's not, like 5 years ago, I would have said, okay, maybe that's a good point. Now, not so much. Like, there's been time. I mean, think about all the good shows that left, and there just hasn't been anything coming out, especially in the last 5 years. If you think about The Office, which The Office came out 15 years ago, let's say. Yeah, I think about 15 years ago. And its replacement for NBC was really Parks and Rec, which I didn't like it the first season. It grew on me. It still, even at its best, was not near as good as The Office was. The Office was way better. I mean, I will disregard the last couple of seasons of The Office. The last couple of years of almost every television series is usually pretty crap. So I'll disregard the last couple of years of The Office, although I will say the last year of The Office was pretty good. There was a rough time after Steve Carell left that show, where they were still trying to figure out what they were without him, and it was not very good. So yeah, like, The Office was way better than Parks and Rec, in my opinion. And The Office, I would say, while in general it was a great show, I would say like it wasn't as good as some of the better shows of the 90s. For instance, I never torched this up. For instance, NBC in the 90s was a juggernaut. They had Seinfeld, they had Friends, they had Frasier, and man, their bad shows were even better than... I mean, people look at NBC now, and me in particular, and are like, what the hell happened to this network? Like, the bad shows on NBC back in the 90s was Just Shoot Me and News Radio, and those, like, News Radio was a terrific show compared to... You look at those shows and compare it to anything NBC has nowadays, those shows were better. And that was NBC's crap that they kept on shuffling around because they couldn't quite get the ratings that they wanted to. But I think NBC would die now for those shows' ratings, just because they were so much better than what NBC has now. But even if you compare those shows versus, like, television shows that are popular on other networks, I still like those shows were still a little better than what you can find. Now you'll notice that I'm mostly talking about sitcoms in this discussion, and the truth of the matter is that a lot of the not sitcoms out there are just cop shows. So you look at CBS's lineup these days, and you'll see they have like 3 CSI shows and 3 NCIS shows, and I don't know what channel Blue Bloods is on. I think that might be NBC. Every channel has like 5 cop shows these days, and it's just ridiculous. What the hell is up with all the cop shows? They're not even that good. Those shows I disregard as quality shows, and the reason that I disregard them as quality shows is because they are repeating the same exact show that Law & Order was back in 1980 for the last 30 years. And so I disregard those shows. They're not doing anything different or new. They're just changing the actors. That's all they're doing. They're not doing a goddamn thing. And honestly, in a lot of ways, they're doing it worse. Like, I've watched CSI a few times. I've watched CSI Miami. I cannot bring myself to watch CSI Cyber. I've seen CSI New Orleans, I think or is it NCIS? I don't know. I get confused between NCIS and CSI. I cannot tell. I really, it's just a bunch of acronyms and bad acting. But like, every time I see the CSI Cyber, I am laughing by the end of the commercial, just because the acting is so bad and the writing is so bad. And this is the commercial. This is what they're actually trying to sell their series on. And I cannot stop laughing because it's just so bad. And I just don't get why these shows are good. Like, why people watch these shows. They're not good. They're just not. And the friend who disagrees with me on quality of shows, so I kind of disregard dramas for that reason. There are some really good dramas out there, like I said, Breaking Bad, Walking Dead, Mad Men, Psych is done, but it was good in its time. That was more of a comedy more than anything else, an hour comedy, which is kind of strange. Game of Thrones is terrific, but yeah. I mean, there's always been those things. Like, dramas have always been around. They've never really been my thing, and that's the other thing, is that I like some dramas, but to me, the quality on television is not there for the most part. Sometimes there's a gem that I'll watch, but it's not often. Like, Grey's Anatomy, to me, for instance, same thing as ER. I would say ER was better during its heyday than Grey's Anatomy is. yeah, like, yeah, even there, I feel like 20 years ago, the dramas were better. Still might not have been my cup of tea, but the dramas were, in fact, better. Now, so the one area that I feel may have some decent competition is sci-fi, or at least has spurts where it's competitive. But even then, I kind of gear towards sci-fi of the past versus sci-fi of the present. I think there's definitely more sci-fi. So if you look on television nowadays, there's a lot of sci-fi on TV, and I think this is actually where my friend who disagrees with me probably is correct. And he's huge on watching all sorts of sci-fi, even if it's not good. And that is, if you look at today, you have Gotham, Flash, Arrow, Constantine I actually enjoyed but has been canceled, Grimm. And there's a lot of other shows that I know I'm missing. Oh, Supernatural's on, Doctor Who is on, Game of Thrones is sci-fi, technically because fantasy actually rolls into sci-fi. They tend to get classed together because the same type of people like them both. Yeah, so you have those, and then 20 years ago we had X-Files, which I think is better than all of those shows, all the shows that are on today. What else did we have? We had probably 2 Star Treks at the time, because there was a time where Deep Space Nine was overlapping both with Voyager and TNG. Babylon 5 was probably on, although that's a syndicated show, kind of. I don't know. Yeah, there was a lot of really bad sci-fi on in the day. Stargate was on, which they don't have a Stargate on anymore. I would say that there's more sci-fi on now, and it's a better quality than it was maybe 20 years ago. In general, I tended to like the 20 years ago stuff a little more, and X-Files kind of skews it, because X-Files was really good compared to most sci-fi now. If you look at X-Files alone, it's I believe better than everything else that is out now. But when you're talking about sci-fi, you're also kind of looking at a history of really bad TV, right? Like, most of the Star Treks were not actually very good quality, but I mean, they're interesting for other reasons, not because of good acting. They have interesting situations and adventure and whatnot. And so when you look at production quality means a lot for those shows. And that's kind of where my discussion with the original guy got to. He got to the point of being like, yeah, maybe in general television is not bad, but maybe what I was meaning was that the production quality is better nowadays, and to me that means a lot. Well, okay, yeah, that's true, and I think for him it made sense because he is very much into sci-fi, and that's really his genre. Like, he watches everything, even the really, really bad stuff. And when you start to think about it on that side, yeah, it makes sense. Production quality is better, and if the only thing that you really care about is production quality because you're into sci-fi, well, okay, yeah, TV is better, but production quality alone doesn't actually make a show better. A good case in point is, let's take Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory's production quality is clearly very high. It's in high definition, very rich colors. The set design is pretty good. There's you look at just the base apartment set, and there's a lot of stuff in the background, lots of books and posters and toys and everything. Like, there's a lot to look at in that show. And you compare that with Friends, which was standard definition, There was some stuff to look at, but there wasn't a ton. I think Friends was during an age where they were just starting to do that, where they started to fill in the background with all sorts of little stuff. So you started to see stuff like on the back of the door, there was a frame over the keyhole, which was very unique, or stuff like that, right? Then you compare back to CBS, or a Cosby Show back in the 80s, which had an even sparser set design. And even Friends versus Cosby Show, you could tell that the camera equipment was way better in Friends. And then you go all the way back to I Love Lucy, where there was barely a set. The set was a blank wall. There was a couch, a table, and a chair, and that was pretty much all the set. There wasn't really any pictures anywhere. There wasn't any sort of real decorations. Everything in it was very utilitarian. They could use every single piece on set, and part of that was cost. Part of that was just the early times. They didn't need more. It was more at that point. Everything was more like stage. Like when you went and saw a play, everything was sparse, and that's basically what television was back in those days, right? So yeah, production quality has gone a long way. Is Big Bang Theory a better show than I Love Lucy, specifically because it's in high definition rather than standard definition and the set design was better? No. I Love Lucy is way better than both Friends and Big Bang Theory. And Friends is better than Big Bang Theory. Now, Seinfeld is better than all three of those things, but not because of the production quality. So, like, production quality is great and all, but that just gives you a better experience when viewing a show. It doesn't actually make the show any better. And I feel like... I don't know. I don't really understand that he actually thought it made the show better, that the production quality was so high. It's a very weird argument to me. I don't get it, but maybe, like I said, maybe it has more to do with sci-fi than it has to do with anything else. So I don't know. You guys tell me what you think on that subject. Do you think production quality makes a show? I do think a show can get lost with bad production nowadays, mostly just because it compares badly to other things on TV. So if a show has bad production quality now, with everything else having such good production quality, yeah, a show can be sunk. But it doesn't really work the other way. So tell me what you guys think. Is TV better today than it was 20 years ago, 15 years ago? Is TV better 15 years ago? Do you even watch TV anymore? Because my theory is that kids nowadays, they don't even watch television. Like my kid, I have a 15-year-old daughter, and she doesn't watch TV at all. Not even on Netflix. Like she doesn't watch any sort of visual entertainment anymore. And it's not because it's not because she grew up in one of those houses that has no television. I have a television. I watch Netflix constantly. Like I said, television is part of my life. And so, because of that, it's been part of her. She grew up watching cartoons all the time as a child. But now, no interest in television at all, even remotely. Her entertainment comes from playing video games, and even that's kind of dropped off in recent years. And watching YouTube, weirdly enough. She doesn't even really watch Twitch, although I can see that's kind of a personal thing. She's really YouTube, and that's it. And she doesn't even watch like production shows on YouTube. It's just really people playing games on YouTube. And that's kind of, I feel like, where society is nowadays. It's really weird to me, but that's where it is. So tell me where you are in that spectrum. And that's going to be it for this episode. A lot of talking. Sorry about that if that bothers you, but for these episodes where I'm just sitting here building the entire episode, it's kind of what I do. I think these episodes are kind of important because I am doing this all the time. Like when I play, this is all I ever do, and so it's kind of You're subscribing to me to watch me do what I do, and this is what I do. So I hope you enjoyed. I'm totally screwing this up because this has to be murder holes, but I hope you enjoyed. Have a good one. Talk to you later. Bye bye.